Hello, my ladies of inestimable value. The strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about. Sigma females are exactly that. Warriors in silence, navigating life with an unmatched level of self-sufficiency. They are the lone wolves, the masterminds, the women who don't fit into society's neat little boxes. But here's the twist, even the strongest fortresses have cracks. Psychologists say that highly independent people often develop invisible weaknesses, flaws so well hidden even they don't realize they exist until life forces them to face them. And that's where the sad truth comes in. Sigma females may seem untouchable, but beneath their unwavering confidence lies a battlefield of struggles they rarely admit to. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just another list of predictable flaws. These are the raw, unfiltered truths about the weaknesses Sigma females face, the ones that make them both unstoppable and at times unknowingly fragile. And trust me, even the most hardcore Sigma out there will see herself in at least one of these. Number 1. They push themselves to the edge. Before asking for help. Sigma. Females are known for their fierce independence, but that independence comes at a cost. They don't ask for help until they are completely drained. They don't believe in burdening others, so they push themselves to the absolute limit, convincing themselves they can handle everything alone. They will juggle work, personal struggles, emotional stress, and life's never-ending curveballs without so much as a complaint. But behind the scenes, they're running on fumes, mentally and emotionally exhausted long before anyone even notices. They don't reach out when the weight starts getting heavy, they only reach out when it's crushing them. And by that point, it's not a request for support, it's a quiet collapse. The problem is, when they finally admit they need help, they're already too far gone. Their burnout isn't just stress, it's complete emotional shutdown. And by then, most people around them don't even know how to help because the Sigma female has spent so long pretending she had it all under control. This pattern isn't just about stubbornness, it's about survival. Sigma females have learned through experience that most people either don't care or will use their vulnerability against them. So they internalize everything, treating their struggles like personal battles no one else should be involved in. Even when someone offers to help, they hesitate. They wonder if that person truly means it, if they'll later regret asking, or if relying on someone, even for a moment, will make them weaker. And here's where it gets worse. When they finally do reach out, the people they turn to aren't always equipped to handle it. It's not because those people don't care, but because Sigma females have conditioned everyone around them to believe they don't need anything. So when they suddenly do, it catches people off guard, leaving the Sigma feeling even more alone than before. It's a vicious cycle, one that keeps repeating until they finally learn this harsh truth. True strength isn't just about handling things alone. It's also about knowing when to let others step in before it's too late. But for most Sigma females, that lesson comes painfully late. Number 2. They are too good at cutting people off, even the right ones. Sigma females have mastered the art of walking away without looking back. They've spent years refining their ability to cut ties with toxic people, and because of that, they don't tolerate nonsense for even a second. If someone disrespects them, crosses a boundary, or brings unnecessary drama, they're gone. No hesitation, no second chances. But here's where it gets tricky. Not every flaw is a red flag. Not every mistake is a betrayal. And sometimes, in their pursuit of peace and self-preservation, they push away people who actually had good intentions. They're so used to protecting themselves from harm that the moment they sense a hint of emotional discomfort, they assume it's a warning sign instead of just humanity. The problem is, no one is perfect, including Sigma females themselves. But because they've been burned before, they've conditioned themselves to believe that distance is always the safest option. They won't wait for an explanation. They won't consider that people have bad days, make mistakes, or say the wrong thing without meaning harm. Instead, they vanish. This leads to an unfortunate paradox. They crave deep, meaningful connections, but their own defense mechanisms keep those connections from fully forming. The people who might have truly cared for them, gone before they even had a chance. The ones who could have added value to their lives, shut out over a misunderstanding. And the worst part? They often don't realize it until later. Sometimes months or even years down the line, they look back and wonder, did I cut them off too soon? Were they really bad for me, or was I just scared of vulnerability? But by then it's too late. The bridge has already burned, and they're left with nothing but the echoes of their own silence. It's a lesson most Sigma females learn the hard way. Being able to walk away is power, but knowing when to stay is wisdom. And wisdom, unfortunately, only comes after a few irreversible losses. Number 3. They struggle with an invisible standard. No one else can see. Sigma females don't just chase success. They chase a standard that doesn't exist. They hold themselves to an invisible bar so high that even when they achieve something incredible, it barely registers as a win. The moment they reach one goal, they're already fixated on the next. There's no celebration, no moment of pride, just a relentless voice in their head saying, not enough, do more. This isn't about ambition. It's about never feeling like they've truly arrived. No matter how much they accomplish, there's always something missing. If they land a dream job, they'll convince themselves they should have gotten there sooner. If they build something extraordinary, they'll focus on the flaws instead of the progress. It's a silent self-sabotage, an endless chase for an undefined version of perfect that keeps them feeling like they're falling short, even when they're miles ahead of everyone else. And the worst part, no one else can see this standard but them. From the outside, people admire them, call them impressive, even intimidating. Others see their accomplishments as something to aspire to. But to a Sigma female, it's just another checkpoint in an exhausting race with no finish line. When people praise them, it doesn't register, because in their mind, they're still behind. This mindset also makes rest feel like a crime. Taking a break feels like falling behind. Relaxing feels like losing momentum. Even when they're mentally and physically drained, they push forward because slowing down is unacceptable. And yet, no matter how far they go, happiness remains just out of reach because they never allow themselves to feel done. At some point, most Sigma females have to face this brutal truth. Achievement alone won't bring fulfillment. If they don't redefine what success means for them, they'll spend their entire lives chasing a victory they'll never allow themselves to enjoy. But breaking that cycle, that's a battle most don't even realize they're fighting. Number 4. Their brutal honesty sabotages their own influence. Sigma females don't believe in sugarcoating. If something needs to be said, they'll say it, raw, unfiltered, and without hesitation. To them, honesty isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. They don't see the point in watering down the truth just to make it more digestible. If someone is wrong, they'll correct them. If something doesn't make sense, they'll call it out. And if a situation demands brutal clarity, they'll deliver it, whether people are ready to hear it or not. But here's the catch. Most people aren't ready. The world thrives on comfort, and Sigma females, they thrive on reality. Their bluntness doesn't come from a place of cruelty, but in a society that craves validation over truth, it feels like an attack. They may think they're just being straightforward, but to others, their words cut deep. Not because they're wrong, but because they're too right. This creates an ironic dilemma. Sigma females want to be understood, but their honesty often pushes people away. The very thing that makes them respected also makes them feared. People might admire their boldness from a distance, but up close, it can feel overwhelming. Even allies, people who support and care for them, can sometimes feel like they're standing in front of a firing squad rather than a trusted friend. And the worst part? It sabotages their influence. Instead of people listening, they get defensive. Instead of taking the Sigma female's wisdom to heart, they feel attacked and shut down. The Sigma, in turn, gets frustrated, wondering why people can't handle the truth. They may even double down, becoming even more direct, which only widens the gap between them and those they're trying to reach. Over time, many Sigma females realize that being right isn't enough. Delivery matters. Truth without strategy is just noise. And if they don't learn to balance their honesty with emotional intelligence, they risk becoming voices that no one wants to hear, even when they're saying exactly what needs to be said. Number 5. They struggle to accept that some problems aren't meant to be solved. Sigma females have a mind that works like a high-powered analytical machine. The moment they see a problem, their instinct is to solve it, improve it, or eliminate it. It's not just a habit, it's who they are. They can't stand inefficiency, unnecessary drama, or watching people make the same mistakes over and over again. In their world, every issue has a solution, and if no one else is stepping up, they will. But life doesn't work like that. Some problems aren't puzzles to be solved. They're just realities to be accepted. And this is where Sigma females struggle the most. They can't switch off their problem-solving mindset, even when the situation doesn't call for it. They'll analyze, strategize, and try to fix things that aren't meant to be fixed. And when their solutions don't work, or worse, when people don't want their solutions, it drives them insane. Nowhere is this more evident than in relationships. Sigma females don't just listen for the sake of listening. They listen to identify the root of the issue and eliminate it. If someone vents about a bad day, they'll instantly jump into solution mode. Did you try this? Maybe you should do that. Here's what I would do. But the reality is most people don't want solutions. They want to be heard. They want empathy, not a master plan. And because Sigma females don't naturally operate this way, they can come across as cold, detached, or impatient. This also becomes their downfall when they try to fix people. They believe that with enough logic, support, or effort, they can help someone change. But some people don't want to change, and some problems aren't theirs to solve. This realization is a tough pill to swallow, because walking away from something that feels unfinished goes against every fiber of their being. For Sigma females, the hardest lesson is understanding that sometimes the best solution is no solution at all. Letting things be, accepting imperfections, and realizing that not everything is within their control isn't a sign of failure, it's wisdom. But getting to that point, that's a battle they fight within themselves every single day. Number 6. They don't know how to be vulnerable until it's too late. Sigma females are masters of self-reliance. They don't lean on people, they don't overshare, and they certainly don't wear their emotions on their sleeves. To them, vulnerability feels like a risk they can't afford to take. They believe that if they just push through, keep their emotions locked away, and handle things on their own, everything will eventually fall into place. But life doesn't work like that. Bottled up emotions don't disappear. They build pressure. And Sigma females, in their attempt to stay composed, often don't realize they're carrying too much weight until they collapse under it. They won't talk about their struggles when they're manageable. Instead, they'll wait. Wait until they're mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, and standing on the edge of a complete breakdown. And by that time, it's usually too late. This pattern is especially damaging in relationships. Sigma females don't give people pieces of themselves gradually. They hold everything in until the floodgates burst open. And when that moment comes, the people in their lives often feel blindsided. They didn't see it coming because the Sigma female never let them see it. What could have been resolved with small, open conversations turns into a full-blown emotional crisis that most relationships can't survive. It's not that Sigma females don't want deep connections. They crave them more than they admit. But they struggle to trust that someone will actually be there for them if they reveal their true struggles. So they test people in silence. They tell themselves if they really cared, they'd notice. If they really understood me, I wouldn't have to say anything. But the reality is, no one can read minds. And because Sigma females hide their emotions so well, the people around them genuinely don't know they're hurting until it's too late to fix it. The hardest truth for Sigma females to accept is that vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's the glue that holds relationships together. Waiting until they're breaking apart to show their emotions only guarantees one thing. By the time they finally let someone in, there may be no one left to listen. Number 7. They get bored with normal people too fast. Sigma females live in a world where surface-level interactions feel like torture. They don't do small talk, they don't care for meaningless gossip, and they can't fake enthusiasm for shallow conversations. Their mind craves depth, intelligence, and intensity, things that, unfortunately, most people simply don't bring to the table. This makes socializing frustrating. They'll meet someone new, start a conversation, and within minutes they already know how it's going to go. The same recycled questions, the same predictable responses, the same generic opinions. It's like watching a movie they've seen 100 times. Where's the depth? Where's the originality? Where's the intellectual spark that makes them actually want to stay? This isn't just about intelligence. It's about mental stimulation. Sigma females don't need someone with a PhD, but they need someone who makes them think, challenges them, and keeps them engaged. They want conversations that feel electric, relationships that push them to grow, and interactions that don't leave them checking the time, wondering when they can politely leave. But because most people are content with surface-level existence, Sigma females often feel like they're mentally starving in a world that's content with breadcrumbs. This boredom spills into relationships too. If a connection starts feeling too predictable, too routine, or too easy, their mind starts wandering. It's not that they don't want stability, it's that they need intellectual and emotional movement. If a partner stops growing, stops questioning, or stops evolving, a Sigma female starts feeling trapped. And once that happens, they detach. Not out of malice, but because staying in something that no longer excites their mind feels like slow suffocation. The brutal truth: Sigma females aren't too picky. Most people are just too predictable. They aren't asking for the impossible. They just want depth in a world addicted to shallowness, originality in a society that thrives on repetition, and connections that actually make them feel alive. But finding that's the real challenge. Number 8. Their mind rarely lets them rest. Sigma females never truly switch off. Their mind is like a high-speed train that never reaches a station, constantly analyzing, dissecting, and strategizing. Even in moments of silence, their thoughts are anything but quiet. They replay past conversations, wondering if they could have said something differently. They anticipate future conflicts, preparing responses for battles that may never even happen. They question, they plan, they overanalyze, and the cycle never stops. Rest doesn't come easily to them. Even when their body is still, their mind is working overtime. They can be lying in bed exhausted, but their brain is sorting through unfinished thoughts like an endless to-do list. What did that person really mean when they said that? Did they miss a red flag? Did they come across too strong? Did they waste time on something meaningless today? The questions loop over and over, leaving them drained before the next day even begins. This relentless thinking isn't always a curse. It's what makes them sharp, strategic, and ahead of the game. But it also means they rarely experience true peace. They struggle to be present because their mind is always scanning for the next move, the next problem, or the next opportunity. They can't enjoy a moment fully because part of them is already analyzing what comes next. And the worst part, they don't even realize how exhausted they are until they crash. They push through stress, convince themselves they're fine, and keep functioning at a level most people couldn't maintain. But eventually, the weight of their own mind catches up to them. The burnout hits like a train, and suddenly even the smallest tasks feel impossible. Sigma females don't need more time to rest. They need to learn how to rest. Their real battle isn't with the world, it's with their own mind. Because until they learn how to quiet the chaos, peace will always feel just out of reach. Number 9. They don't know how to let people love them without conditions. Sigma females have spent their entire lives being their own source of strength. They don't expect handouts, they don't rely on people, and they certainly don't sit around waiting for love to complete them. Their independence isn't just a trait, it's their identity. They are used to earning everything they have, whether it's respect, success, or security. So when someone comes along and offers them love without conditions, without effort, without a price tag attached, they don't know what to do with it. Deep down, they struggle to believe that love can be freely given. They've spent so much time being the giver, the fixer, the protector, that the idea of simply receiving without proving their worth first feels unnatural. They don't reject love because they don't want it. They reject it because it feels too easy. They've learned to equate love with effort, and when someone offers it without demanding anything in return, they doubt it. The unfortunate reality is that Sigma females often test love without realizing it. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that stems from their own uncertainty. They push people away, thinking if they really care, they'll stay. They downplay their emotions, believing if I don't need them, they can't hurt me. They keep a part of themselves guarded, assuming love is always conditional, nothing is truly free. This mindset creates an invisible wall between them and the people who genuinely care. They end up questioning the purest forms of love while giving their all to relationships that require them to prove their worth over and over again. They subconsciously choose situations where their love is a currency, because that's the only language they trust. The sad truth? Sigma females don't need to earn love, they just need to accept it. But that's the hardest thing for them to do, because accepting love means trusting it. Trusting that someone sees them, values them, and wants them. Not for what they can do, but simply for who they are. And for a Sigma female, that kind of vulnerability feels like the biggest risk of all. Number 10. They underestimate how much they intimidate people. Sigma females walk into a room with a presence that demands attention, even when they're not trying. They're confident, sharp, and utterly unapologetic, which to them is just how they naturally exist. But what they don't always realize is just how unsettling that can be to people who aren't built the same way. They assume that if someone seems nervous around them, it's a personal issue, that the other person just needs to toughen up or get over it. They don't stop to consider that their sheer energy, their ability to see through nonsense, and their refusal to conform to social expectations can be intimidating in ways they don't even notice. People aren't just uncomfortable because they're weak. They're uncomfortable because Sigma females operate on a completely different level. This misunderstanding can lead to unnecessary friction. Sigma females often mistake nervousness for disinterest, insecurity for arrogance, or avoidance for disrespect. They think, if I can handle the truth, why can't they? But not everyone is built to withstand their intensity. Most people are used to social cushioning, small talk, half-truths, and careful diplomacy. Sigma females bypass all of that, and while that's part of their strength, it also makes them unpredictable and frankly terrifying to those who rely on social niceties to feel comfortable. The problem isn't that Sigma females need to shrink themselves. It's that they sometimes misread the room. They don't always realize when their directness comes across as dominance, or when their confidence feels like a silent challenge. They expect people to just deal with it, but not everyone has the emotional fortitude to do so. As a result, they may unintentionally push people away, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they don't always recognize the effect they have. The irony? They don't even try to be intimidating. It's not an act, it's not a strategy, it's just who they are. But until they acknowledge just how powerful their presence is, they'll continue to underestimate why people react to them the way they do. Sigma females are some of the most powerful, self-sufficient, and intellectually sharp individuals you'll ever meet. But that power comes with its own burdens. Their minds are relentless, their standards are sky-high, and their emotional walls are nearly impossible to breach. They cut people off too quickly, overanalyze until exhaustion, and struggle to embrace love without conditions. They are problem solvers who can't accept that not everything is meant to be fixed. They are brutally honest, yet unknowingly push away the very people who want to understand them. And worst of all, they don't even realize how much they carry until they break under the weight of it. But here's the truth, their struggles don't make them weak. If anything, they prove just how resilient, complex, and extraordinary Sigma females truly are. Their mind is both their greatest weapon and their toughest opponent. Their independence is both their strength and their Achilles heel. And their depth is both a blessing and a curse in a world that often thrives on the superficial. The biggest challenge for a Sigma female isn't the world, it's herself. Learning to rest, to accept love without repayment, to let people in before it's too late. These aren't easy lessons, but they're necessary. Because while Sigma females are masters at standing alone, true strength isn't about isolation. It's about knowing when to let down the armor, when to allow peace in, and when to trust that not every battle needs to be fought alone. If this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these struggles, these strengths, and these hard truths, then you already know that the Sigma path is not for the faint of heart. It's raw, it's relentless, and it's not for everyone. But here's the thing, you're not alone in it. This channel is built for minds like yours, sharp, independent, and always seeking deeper truths. So if you want more content that speaks to who you really are, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because trust me, the journey doesn't stop here, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Stay sharp, stay unstoppable, and I'll see you in the next one.